Here we are with Todd. He was one of our first Gen 5 LT 8-speed customers. He's now got over 20,000 miles on his JK, and we're going to take a little ride with him and see what he thinks. Okay, so we're in Todd's Jeep right now. We got the air conditioning on. You can hear the fan running. This is a Camaro SS fan that is based off of AC condenser pressure and engine coolant temp and trans temp. As you can see, it's about, well, the temp's showing 108. I'd say it's about 105 out. So Todd, how do you like your LT?
I love this thing. It's way bigger, better improvement over the 6-cylinder. Not only do I get better gas mileage, but a lot more power.
What do you find the most significant thing in the power? Is it the torque? Because my experience with the LT is how much torque it has.
Right. It's a lot of torque on demand whenever you ask for it. So like when just coming onto an on-ramp or just starting off from the light, yeah, or even off-road, just have all that torque at your disposal. The nice thing about this motor is it really is based off of user input. If you want to take it easy, don't give it as much throttle, but if you really want to get going, then just put it to the floor and this thing will go. It will surprise a lot of people. Has been for actually the entire year now. I've been driving this thing. Pretty much everyone that tries to pass me, you know, thinking I'm going to be the slowest one on the highway, to their surprise, the Jeep is passing them.
Tell us a little bit about your Jeep. What size tires, axles, etc.?
40-inch tires, 488 axles. They're Danish 60 axles, so it increased the weight of the vehicle. The tires themselves also added a lot of weight to the vehicle, but you don't feel it with this engine swap. It seems to take care of it really easy.
What kind of economy are you getting?
On the highway, I'm seeing as high as 16. So,
have you been off-roading?
Yes, a lot. Videos, pictures, mostly around the valley here, going out with a couple of various clubs here in Vegas. So just to kind of, you know, take the Jeep out. It is a Jeep, it needs to go off-road.
How do you like the 8-speed off-road?
The 8-speed is nice, especially if you go with 4-wheel low. You'll see that you actually have a very large range to choose from, especially if you have the tap shift option. In my case, I can basically select a certain gear, stay in a certain gear for pretty much any obstacle I want. So if I want to go really slow, I can keep it in first. But if I want to just keep up with everyone else, you know, keep it in 8th gear, and you still can get about close to 35 miles per hour.
What kind of gas are you running to get 16 miles to the gallon?
Actually, I've been mixing anywhere between mostly 91 octane, because that seems to be what the engine likes. The fuel tables are designed for 91 octane, but if you do put 87 octane in there, the engine will adapt to it. You do lose it a little bit of power.
Yeah, that's my experience too.
Right. Mileage doesn't seem to suffer as much, though. It still seems to get decent. So, as having that ability to be able to go to a gas pump and just pump in whatever you want, the engine seems to handle it very easily. I left a lot of the fuel tables, especially for high octane, low octane tables, I left them stock. So what Yukon Denali has, and it seems to work fine. I think GM built it that way, so we might as well keep it that way.
With this 8-speed, what are you cruising on the highway, RPM wise?
When I go on the highway, usually clocking around 75, 80. They're seeing anywhere from 2,000, 2,200.
And when you're off-road, you got plenty of low-end torque.
Plenty.
So you got 488s with 40s.
Yes. Yep.
You've driven LSs and other non-direct injected V8s. What would you say the biggest differences between this LT and the LSs are?
This one is, like I said, with that torque on demand. And you'll notice that when you get on the throttle, the torque seems to come on a lot stronger at much lower RPM than it does with a conventional engine or a non-direct injection engine.
So would you say it's a little bit like a diesel?
Very much so, actually. You kind of get that same diesel feel.
Alright, so we're going to get on the highway here with Todd and this L86, and I don't think you got to worry about merging into traffic with this engine. One nice thing about the 8-speed is it's so diverse in its gearing that you have good out of the hole performance, but at the same time, when you get out of cruise, you're running under 2,000 RPM at 70. So let's see where we're at here. 7th gear, I think.
Yep, 7th gear. Then it'll drop down to 6 or 8.
So we're going 75 at about 20, 2,000 RPM. And remember, this is a heavy Jeep with 40s on it, and we're going uphill. So essentially you can see under a load it's going to pick whatever gear is the most efficient. And then when you get to a cruise, it's going to drop down. So 80 miles an hour at 2,100 RPM, and this heavy Jeep is pretty good.
That is corrected speed.
Todd upgraded this Jeep to a bump shifter from a later model JK. What year is this Jeep?
2010.
We've also got an Atlas 2-speed, and he's got the Power Pros switch panel. These are pretty cool. They're compact and have a very small unit under the hood to hook up to your battery to operate all these accessories.
Bluetooth capabilities allows me to, if I had on my phone, I can turn the lights on and off, whether I'm inside or outside the Jeep. It also has the capability to turn the lights on with the ignition off too. So if I wanted to, if I was in my tent from camping and I wanted to light up the campsite, I could do it from my phone before I left my tent. So basically you have about 30 amps pretty much per switch. The last switch, auxiliary 2, is actually double the amperage, so you're talking about 60 amps total. So if you want to run a compressor off it, or you can run a relay that can run, or they can run 2 relays for 2 compressors.
What ratio Atlas do you have in this?
I got the 3.0.
What would you tell guys that want to run a 5.0 or a 4.0?
Well, the 3.8 would be way lower for this transmission. Maybe you're in a 6-speed, maybe, but because the first gear on this transmission is really low, it's plenty.
So Todd, after 20,000 miles, I get a lot of questions on oil consumption and the use of a catch can. What is your thought on that?
Actually, I haven't been seeing that much at all, if any,